Hi everyone, it's Heidi from Flutter by Heidi. I'm Heidi Smith, an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator based here in the United Kingdom, and today I'm hopping around with the Stamp Around UK crew, bringing you some inspiration with the new in colours. So in colours are 5 colours that change every 2 years. So each year we have 5 new colours that come that Stampin' Up introduce to complement all of the other colours that are in our core ranges. And these come in ink, in paper, in cardstock. We also have gorgeous coordinating ribbons, you can see 2 here, and it just brings a nice fresh change. So we thought we'd like to show you some of those today. You can see here today's the colours we've got this year that have been launched this year are Misty Moonlight, Just Jade, Magenta Madness, Bumblebee and Cinnamon Cider. And so I'm actually going to use just 3 of those today. I'm going to use Just Jade, Magenta Madness and Bumblebee, and I'm going to be using the lovely Blossoms in Bloom stamp set, which is a beautiful distinctive stamp set, and it has some coordinating dies which you can see here which create beautiful layers. And with that, I'm actually going to also use fabulous stitched rectangles which stitch inside and out, because we're going to create this card here, which is a kind of variation. It's like a double tent fold, hanging tent fold. It's not quite a hanging one, but as you can see, it's this panel floats free, which just gives it a really pretty effect. And then I've got a frame on the front there with that detailed die cut just to add some interest. So a lovely special birthday card. So let's get started. Okay then. Some of the prep I have done already just to help speed things up a little bit. And to show you how we go. So to start off with, you're going to create a tent fold card base, and because the size of the stitched rectangles, I'm slightly shorter than normal. So this is 28 by 10.5 centimetres, and I've scored it at 14 centimetres. What you're then going to do is, she says, we're going to create a frame for the front of that, and I've taken 2 of my stitched rectangles that you can see here. They're not quite the largest one, but then the next size is down, and I've taped those onto a piece of thick Whisper White card. I'm just going to run that through my Big Shot on a standard sandwich for die cutting. And you'll see, if you find that it hasn't quite gone through, then all you do is pop it through, but pop it through at a slight angle instead. And then you will come out with this lovely frame here. Now what you then want to do is to take this slightly smaller, the inner one of those that I've got here, you can see, just lifting that up from the one we've just cut. And you're going to attach that to the front of your card base. Now you can measure it if you like, about 1.2 centimetres in on each side, but just pop it on. Pop a couple of pieces of washi tape, but pop them on the inside, because what you don't want to do is stick it to the outside and then have it take a layer off. Pop that through your die cutting machine, and one thing I'm going to show you here is when you do that, I'm using my magnetic base, and what you're going to do is line up this edge with the edge of your plate and then stagger that slightly, so when it goes through you don't get highlights. Then you're going to pop that straight through your die cutting machine, and that will create our card base like this. So you're going to have a card with an aperture in the front, and you're going to have a separate frame that is the same inner dimension as that as well. So that's where we're starting. Now the next thing we're going to do is use these beautiful dies. Now you'll see that there are 2 dies here. So we've got this one, which is the detailed outline, and then we've got another one which cuts another layer. So I'm just going to use this very detailed one. I'm going to pop that onto a sheet of cardstock and pop that through. The important thing with these dies is they are quite detailed, so what's really useful when they come out is for you to have a either the take your pick tool adapter which has this on the end of it. This is an old Sizzix one that we used to stock, and when that comes through, just put it through 2 or 3 times. And if you're struggling, just a little hint, if you've got a piece that's not cutting, take an old can, an old pop can, soda can in the States, you know, a can of whatever, and just cut yourself a piece out of the side. And then when you put it back through, if there's an area that hasn't cut, you'll find just that extra little layer of metal just will help that as a shim and go all the way through. The lovely thing about this, you've also got these separate flowers, which I'm not using this time, but are absolutely beautiful. And you can see I've got my dies out, so I've cut a couple of extras as well. So once you've die cut that, you're going to have this beautiful, delicate piece for the front. Now, what you want to do is, this is going to layer behind the frame, but we actually want to make sure it sort of lines up with our stamping. So I'm going to put that to one side now. I'm going to add, actually I'll add my red tape to the back here while I've got this out. So I'm using some fine red tape, and I'm just adding a layer of that to the outside, because that's going to hold my die cut in place. And then what I'm actually going to do is put some of our foam strips along the top of that, just to cover it up and to create that lovely dimension on the front of the card. So you can pick red tape up stuff anywhere. I mean, obviously, if you prefer to use some Tombow, you can. I just found I get in a bit of a mess with it. So we'll pop that to one side, and let's carry on now with our next piece, which is the inner card. So to create our inner, what you want to do is we want a piece of ordinary whisper white. I use thick whisper white for the outer. This is for the inner, and this is 9.5 by 26, scored at 13 centimetres. And this is where we're going to do our stamping. I've also cut a piece of card that is 13.5 by 10. Just check that. Yep, 10 by 13.5. And as I often do, I don't want to waste the inside of that, so I'm lining it up at 2. I'm just going to gut the centre out, so I'm cutting from 2 centimetres here down to 8.5 here. And if you go over slightly, I'll show you what I mean, over your cut lines, then it doesn't matter because it's not going to show by cutting at 2 centimetres. So you can see that then just pops out. Really useful panel that we can use for another project. So this is the inside layer that's going to go on the inside of our aperture card, and it's going to create a layer for this next piece. And what I am going to do now is use my Stamparatus. Now, you may have a large block, that would work fine. I'm using my Stamparatus just because I just find it easier for lining up, and to make sure if it hasn't stamped quite properly, I can just pop it back over and know it's going to be exactly the same. So because I've stamped on this, I'm just going to pop this piece of card over the top there and put my magnets in place. I'm now going to ink up with my gorgeous Magenta Madness. So yes, this is going to be a photopolymer that will be a little bit stained by the time we've finished with it. Doesn't affect the performance of it at all. It just absorbs reds. So we're going to come down and just pop that over the top there. Just lift up, and you can see that's just stamped beautifully first time. No great surprise there. I'm coming in with one of the accent stamps from this stamp set, which, as you can see here, is absolutely brilliant, because not only have you got this big floral accent, little flowers, leaves, and you've got some lovely, just very straightforward sentiments that you can use as well. So I'm just going to come in and pop with a bit of bumblebee in the centre there. Okay. And then we can take that out, pop that to one one side. If you haven't got one of those but got one of Stampin' Up's big blocks, that would really work. Just be careful, you know, with your placement. Make sure you're stamping onto stamping pierce mat to give that some give so that it works well. And by that, because photopolymer, because it hasn't got that layer of foam on the back that we have with our lovely red rubber stamps, you just need to just add in a little bit of give to get a really good impression as well. And with the distinctive stamps, just be careful that your ink pads aren't too juicy. Mine are quite juicy at the moment because they're quite new and haven't had as much use as I'd have liked them to have had. Okay, so I've added my layer, my inner card onto there. What I should have done is actually stamped on the inside before I added that layer, but never mind. So I'm now going to use one of my other new in colours, which is Just Jade, to add this leaf here. And then a bit of Magenta Madness. Pop the flower in there as well. And then I'm just going to pop, there we go. So pop those to one side. Okay, so this is the layer now. It's ready to go on the inside of our card. So all I'm going to do is pop some, in this instance I'm going to use Tombow again, just around the outside. You could obviously use tear and tape if you prefer. There we go. Just layer that, centering that up. So now we're starting to build up our lovely card, and so this is the point at which this is probably the trickiest bit, if you like, of our card making. So reinforce this top, preferably from the back. Make sure that's nice and holding as closed as we can. What we then want to do is fold back our pieces of red tape. Of course are not going to work. And then we want to layer our flower on top like so. What I'm actually going to do, if I can find it, is I'm just going to pop a clip on the back there just to hold that closed, make it a little bit easier for me. So you can see I've lined that up, and what I'm now going to do is just gently touch this with the layers half off. I'm going to line it up over the top like so, and then lift that up very gently. I hope I haven't pushed it down yet. A slight twist, that's why I've only taken half of the layers off. I'm going to pull that away and just dab those down, just cutting those, just creating those little pieces like so. And then I'm going to come in with my fine foam strips and cut a piece. And all I'm doing here, so you could go along, take the top layer off as it is. So I'm just going to pop that on over the top of my red tape. And then I'm just going to come in and snip any overlapping bits. And I'm just coming in, just in off the side. I'm trying to just come inside that outer line so we don't get any little pieces overlapping. There's a tiny bit on this side, and each card will be slightly different depending on how you've stamped your piece. Okay. Right. Okay, another piece of our tape. Try not to take the top layer off with this one. It just makes it easier to handle it if you don't. And then two small pieces to the top and the bottom. And what this does is it gives you a really lovely frame. These obviously are fantastic if you want to do shaker cards, but anything where you want to create a frame of dimension, these work really well. So I'm just going to take my foam backing off those two ends where I've actually managed to keep it on while I attached it. Let's bring in our card, and this time we can obviously open it up because all we're doing is just now lining up our frame. So I would just stand over it and lay our frame on the top. You can see pretty much perfect on that. So give that a gentle squeeze. And then I've also die cut two of those lovely narrow panels from our stitched rectangles. You can tell it was all about the die cutting today. And I've taken my Happy Birthday from the Blossoms in Bloom. Like so. And again, what I'm going to do now is add some glue to the back of this before I attach it to the front of the card, and then I shall just back it with the other stitched rectangle as well. And you can obviously use whichever glue you have. So I'm just going to grab my Stampin' Seal Plus here, because this has got a really good adhesion. And I'm just going to line that up, hopefully with the centre there. Open it up, okay, or not, as the case may be. In fact, let's do it the other way. So Stampin' Seal Plus is like little layers of little tabs of glue, so it works really, really well and comes as a fabulous, just breaks off without any problems. So I'm just going to roughly line that up. And it was easier the other way around. There we go. Open that up. Add our second layer behind. Now you can give that a good press. And there we have a beautiful Blossoms in Bloom, many layered blossoms birthday card, which anybody would be delighted to have, with a hanging tent fold effect, just to create a really pretty background and a little bit more detail. I hope you've enjoyed watching this project, and if you'd like to purchase any of the items that you've seen today, pop along to my shop, heidismith.stampinup.net, or pop along to my blog, flutterbyheidi.co.uk. You'll find the links to my shop for each of the products in there. Just click on there. I'd be delighted if you chose me as your demonstrator. Always delighted to have customers. So thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel so you get to know when I'm showing some more projects. Thanks for watching. Bye.